Breaking news, this time out of the Valley of the Sun, involving the Phoenix Suns, who have signed Devin Booker to a 4-year, $214 million contract extension. Not the largest contract in NBA history, but not too shabby in its own right. Coach, what do you think of this move from the Suns to keep Booker around for another 4 years?
I'm thrilled about this one. I'm thrilled. I got to call Booker when we get off CBS HQ and congratulate him. This has been like one of my adopted nephews for years. He and my son met over 10 years ago. My son Avery Jr. does some sports marketing work with Booker. So we're just thrilled. What an incredible story. A guy that, basically came off the bench at Kentucky, wanted to start, came into the NBA. His team struggled to win. And now to see how he's aspired to this next level, helped lead his team to the NBA Finals last year. Obviously, they got knocked out this year by the Mavericks. But, he's young. He turns 26 in October. He's probably got one more big contract in him if he stays healthy. So this is just a phenomenal story. And especially when you have a relationship with a young man and you understand how hard he works and the sacrifices he made to welcome Chris Paul to the team and be that true student of the game. And so this is a phenomenal day for Booker and his family. And I know he's going to continue to put in the work to try to help his team get back to the finals.
Yeah, I don't know him the way the coach does, but I know him as a basketball player. And this is exactly what the Suns wanted, exactly what was expected. But I think we've seen today, guys, over the last few days, whether it's Kyrie Irving, whether it's Kevin Durant, you can't take for granted the idea and the notion that your superstars want to be there. And so even though this is expected, even though Devin Booker loves the Phoenix Suns, even though he has the potential, and it's the potential, it's not there now, to be a top 10, top 5 player in the NBA at some point in his career, you always want to make sure that you can get these guys under contract when the opportunity arises. And it's just a reminder that sometimes the most important thing in an organization after having talent is being on the same page as talent, right? We're talking about Nikola Jokic getting his contract extension and Devin Booker getting his contract extension. And I'm sure a host of other guys will over the next hour, or maybe already have. This is how you want your organization to be run. And it reflects in Phoenix an organization that has pieces, that is a competitor, and that does one of the most important things when you get stars in, and that keeps them happy and keeps them around.
Yeah, we just
here. But it will allow, actually it has allowed the 76ers to have enough cap space to go and get PJ Tucker. And that is a veteran guy. That's a guy that can contribute. It's a player who is coveted by competitive teams in the Eastern Conference, where obviously the Sixers are going to be one of those teams. And so they're able, because James Harden took a little bit less money, was able to, and again, he's going to get more than $47 million. Obviously, he's going to have to spread out over several years, be $100 million or whatever it is. But it's not the kind of money he could have commanded because that Sixers organization gave up so much to get him. It is a player cooperating with and being, again, on the same page as his organization to allow a little flexibility, to bring in a little more depth and a few more players. And in the end, guys, what it does is it makes the Sixers a better basketball team and more competitive in a very crowded top of that Eastern Conference.
Yeah, I totally agree here with Bill. This contract has already been verbally agreed to. I think it's going to land somewhere in that $32.5 million range, 3-year deal, maybe a player option at the end. But this will be a 3-year guaranteed contract minimum. This allows Philadelphia to have some flexibility to make some other moves. And then also, they traded for DeAnthony Milton, a guy who had an up-and-down career with the Memphis Grizzlies, but a relatively still young player out of USC that has a tremendous upside. They're going to lean on him heavily, especially I don't see James Harden playing in 82 games. And when he plays, they're going to need some backup reinforcements from a guy like Milton that before he got COVID this year with Memphis, he was playing at a very high level during about a 10-game stretch. They decided to bench him for a game or two in the playoffs, and then some other games he played well. But this is a situation where this is a general manager in Daryl Morey, president Daryl Morey, and Elton Brand, GM, where these guys are synchronized along with Doc Rivers in terms of what's best for the team, and what's best is to try to go out and sign a guy like PJ Tucker. But the only way they can do that is if they have some more flexibility, and James Harden's going to provide that.
All right, Coach, I'm sticking with you here because we saw earlier your boy, Devin Booker, signed that 4-year deal worth over $200 million with the Phoenix Suns on extension. As of right now, DeAndre Ayton remains a restricted free agent on the Suns. What are you seeing happening there with the big man?
Well, I think it all depends on, pretty much signing trade situations. The Suns have invested a lot in Ayton. He's had his moments where, he's played like a top 5 center, and then he's had some moments where he's come up short. There were some discipline issues towards the end of the year. But unless you can get involved in the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, I don't know if there's a better situation out there than re-signing DeAndre Ayton and running it back. You were the number 1 seed in the league. You won, 64 games. You got upset at home in Game 7, where at that point you played your 95th game of the year, and that was your worst game of the season. You picked the worst time to play the worst game of the year. So unless you can get involved significantly with the Kevin Durant sweepstakes, I don't see anybody else walking through that door. There are a lot of teams that were targeting DeAndre Ayton. I don't see him going to the Spurs. I don't see him going to Indiana. The Spurs right now look like they're going to just hit the reset button and go through a total rebuild the same way we did before we drafted Tim Duncan. So in this situation, I would re-sign DeAndre Ayton unless you can get involved with the Kevin Durant sweepstakes.
Yeah, I'm 100% with Coach, and I think that's not what's going to happen. And I think Coach and I are on the same page that barring a 180 by the Phoenix Suns, who have been pretty consistent, they don't value DeAndre Ayton at the level that certainly other teams will. He's going to get, I think, guys, a 4-year max deal. DeAndre Ayton's going to go somewhere else. And I know there's a notion out there's an idea that maybe DeAndre Ayton can be part of a trade to the Brooklyn Nets because Kevin Durant wants to be a Net. But just remember that if you are a team bringing in a player on a sign and trade, you immediately get hard capped. And the Nets have a pretty hefty salary contract threshold right now. They have a lot of money on the books. And you get back to that Ben Simmons issue. Now, if you move on from Kyrie Irving, that certainly takes care of that. So I think DeAndre Ayton's going to be somewhere else. I think Toronto's an interesting location. We'd heard about Atlanta, but obviously they've already made a move for DeJounte Murray, though they're not necessarily ruled out if they were interested in that. Someone out there is going to value DeAndre Ayton at or around a max deal. And the Phoenix Suns, right or wrong, and I think it's wrong, and it sounds like Coach does too, do not value him at the same level. And I think it's very likely he will be playing his basketball somewhere else at the start of next season.